chance to hear it, so let her tell it. People on the streets say Sabrina speaks. Tune into the show, she will let you know. Tell all your friends and family. Real talk is no joke. You get the news straight up from grassroots and concerned. You hear some people gone. So tell all your friends to tune in to
Good evening, Cayman. I'm Sabrina Turner, and welcome to Sabrina Speaks, your daily dose of clarity, truth, and community insights. Every weekday from 5 to 6:30 p.m., we're tackling the issues that affect you, from national headlines to grassroots concerns. Whether you're in traffic or winding down your day, this is your chance to hear it straight and speak your truth. So buckle up, Cayman. We're not holding back.
This is the show. We gotta let you know. Now we got to go.
And now here's Sabrina.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome, one and all. Hope everyone is doing fine. It's good to be back. Good evening to our family near and far. How are you? How's everyone on this Monday? Welcome to another episode of Sabrina Speaks right here on CMRTV.com, because we're voices of the islands, conversations for the world, the podcast where voices rise, stories unfold, and inspiration takes center stage. It's good to be back with you all this evening. So much has happened. Oh my God, so much is going on around us. It's like, I don't even know where to start from this evening. But one thing, for me, I keep it real. I keep it honest. I do my best to keep it informative and educational. And this episode will be no different, not at all. So please get comfortable. Definitely, I encourage you to lock in 345-936-8255 in your phones. You could WhatsApp me. You could join me on a live call, because I love to get your feedback. Your participation is key as we continue to build, empower, encourage, and educate each other in this space. Yes, because I want you as well to join in on the discussions. I'd like to hear from you, and as many of you as possible, because definitely your feedback and your participation is really what matters, because it does carry weight. Yes. But, this episode, this evening, Cayman, I want to keep it real with you tonight. And I will do my best, as I always do, in doing that. Because right now, like I said, there's been a lot going on. And what I'm seeing and the feedback that I have been receiving in the past couple of days is that I could only boil it down to this. Exactly, hence the episode title for today. We're standing really and truly at an immigration crossroads. And the way it's being handled, from what I'm seeing, and I'm paraphrasing right now from some of the conversations that I've had, is just not confusing. It's just not frustrating. It's exhausted is what's being described. All of those received from families. It's exhausting for businesses, for long-term residents alike. And for Caymanians who are feeling like they're watching decisions about their country being made in back rooms and very little participation or even inclusion of them. And here we are again, because there's another amendment has dropped and the regulations are still out for public discussion from the one that was passed in Parliament just before the Christmas holidays. And we see where it's making the headlines that the March 1st rollout has been pushed back. And once again, the public needs to be consulted, or I'm getting that appetite that the public is feeling they want to be consulted. So people are tired. Businesses too are getting a bit frustrated. And so are you, Caymanians. You're almost confused, because every rush law, every delay Every unexplained change doesn't just affect paperwork. It affects people. It affects one's even mental health. It affects emotional stability. And it affects whether families can plan, whether businesses can hire, whether workers feel secured, whether Caymanians themselves feel respected in their own home. And let's talk about the look it gives us as a country, because when laws keep changing almost without warning, little to no warning, when fees are even about to change without validation or after the fact, when the public is left in the dark, it almost feels, it makes us look unstable. It makes you, the people, feel ignored. And it chips away at trust that is already fragile. Some of you say to me, and I quote, "Immigration is not a game. It's not a formality." And I'm actually quoting. It's not something that you rush through Parliament and hope nobody notices. Because what we're seeing here is that immigration is identity, and it's belonging, and it's the future of our islands. And from what we're seeing with the proposed bills and more amendments, which that's good. It is good. But then you see the delay, you see the withdrawal, you see the lack thereof of participation, inclusion. That, my friend, sends another message. And that's where we're taking it from today. I will do my best to share the screen with one of the latest bills that are in circulation, if you even knew that. And I will break that down for you tonight, because we're going to talk about it. That is my duty to deliver it to you, because a lot of you didn't even know that this one was actually in circulation because it was gazetted. But I will be opening the lines because I want to hear from you about this. But welcome one and all, for all of you who are just joining us. And today's episode is Cayman, Immigration Crossroads, Rushed Laws, Delays, and the Growing Lack of Trust. Yeah, that's what I'm feeling. That's what I'm getting back. But ladies and gentlemen, the content you're about to hear, including any discussions or opinions from myself, guests, and or participants, is intended solely for general informational and entertainment purposes. It's not a substitute for professional legal, medical, or financial advice. So I encourage you to consult with a qualified professional for specific concerns. Bridge Media Limited and all its affiliates disclaims all liability on any decisions or actions taken in reliance on the information presented. 345-936-8255 is the number to call to be a part of this conversation this evening, and we love hearing from you. But before getting into the substantive episode today and our title as it pertains to the new bill that's in circulation and even some new fees as well, we're going to do the comparison for you. Hopefully we'll be able to cover it, and if not, we'll do a continuation tomorrow. The weather, as you can see, has rapidly changed from around 12 o'clock today. But thanks to the Cayman Islands National Weather Service, this is a synopsis for our weather leading tonight and into tomorrow. The synopsis calls for a cold front that will continue to affect the islands, becoming stationary east of Jamaica by Tuesday morning. A rapid increase in winds and seas are expected as a result of this frontal passage. Northern and westerly swells are expected alongside below average temperatures, especially overnight. A marine watch is in effect. A strong wind advisory is also in effect, as strong gusts winds are expected. Now, satellite imagery shows widespread clouds over the Cayman area associated with the frontal boundary. The forecast for tonight calls for occasionally cloudy skies. Temperatures will fall near the mid to upper 60s. Winds will be north to northeast at 20 to 30 knots with possible higher gusts. Seas will be rough to very rough with wave heights of 8 to 10 feet. Swells are expected along the northern and western coast, and a marine watch is in effect. A strong wind advisory will also remain in effect for tonight. Tomorrow calls for occasionally cloudy skies and temperatures will rise to the low to mid 70s and winds will be north to northeast 20 to 25 knots. Seas will be rough with very rough heights, wave heights of 8 to 10 feet, gradually subsiding to rough to 6 to 8 feet by tomorrow evening. Swells are expected again to continue along the northern and western coast, and a marine watch will remain in effect. Now, the strong wind advisory will be discontinued later tomorrow afternoon. The tides for this evening will be a low tide at 8:39 this evening and a high tide at 4:14 a.m. tomorrow. Another low will be at 10:28 in the morning. The sun will set this evening at 6:27 and sun will rise tomorrow morning at 6:49. The outlook is for a gradual decrease in winds and seas through Wednesday as the associated high pressure system brings a shift into the Western Atlantic Ocean. Now, the Marine Watch will be downgraded to a small craft alert from late Tuesday, with a further downgrade to an advisory through Wednesday morning. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is the weather forecast for tonight into tomorrow, thanks to our friends over there at the Cayman Islands National Weather Service. Lots of headlines making the news today. Before we get in, and go ahead and share the link. Tell your friends and family. We're going to be discussing lots of stuff here this evening in regards to immigration reform and a bill that is out, a number of them actually. So tell them to like, follow, subscribe, and also we want to hear back from them. Let's take it now to the headlines for today. The Cayman Islands government is launching a full review of the country's decades-old import duty codes in an effort to make essential foods cheaper. Home Affairs Minister Nicholas Da Costa says that the National Coalition for Caymanians is partnering with the Chamber of Commerce to identify specific grocery items where duty can be reduced. Now, with Cayman importing nearly 20% of its food, much of it is taxed between 17 to 22%. Now, officials believe lowering or eliminating duty on key staples could bring immediate relief to families at the checkout line. Now, the review is now underway and with recommendations expected later this year. The governor of the Cayman Islands has announced an upcoming change of the command for the Cayman Islands Regiment. Lieutenant Colonel Roger Carter will formally hand over leadership to Colonel Graham Muir in a ceremony scheduled for March 26, 2026. Now, Colonel Muir, who has served as deputy commander, will assume full command as the regiment continues to expand its role in disaster response, national resilience, and community support. Governor Jean Owen thanked Lieutenant Colonel Carter for his service and leadership, noting that the transition marks an important milestone in the regiment's development. Now, under Section 5 of the Cayman Islands Defense Act, the governor is the one legally responsible for appointing the commanding officer of the regiment. The Defense Act is part of the governor's constitutional responsibilities. So this isn't a political appointment. It doesn't go through cabinet or parliament. The governor has full authority to appoint, promote, or change the regiment's leadership as needed. Now, a delegation of the United Kingdom parliamentarians wrapped up a week-long visit praising Cayman's financial regulation, biodiversity efforts, and world-class facilities. They also expressed support for Little Cayman's bid for World Heritage status. We'll keep you updated on that progress as well. Now, Cayman's expat workforce is rapidly changing. A new analysis highlights a major demographic shift in Cayman's expatriate workforce over the past decade, with significant implications for labor planning and permanent residency point system. Jamaicans, Filipinos, British, American, Canadian, and Indian nationals remain the largest group, but proportions are shifting. Keeping it local, the Cayman Islands government has also confirmed that a new immigration legislation will not take effect on March 1st as originally planned. Now, officials say the implementation date has been pushed back while public consultations are still underway. And additional feedback is being gathered from key stakeholders. The delay means employers, workers, and residents will continue operating under the current rules until the revised regulations are finalized. Now, the government has not yet announced a new start date, but says the extension is intended to ensure the legislation is properly reviewed before being enacted. And while government works through delays in the wider immigration legislation, another major update is on the table, this time involving the fees to immigration services. The Ministry of Caymanian Employment and Immigration has opened a public consultation on the proposed updates to the immigration application fees, the first major review in more than 15 years. Now, under the proposal, work permit fees will remain unchanged, but several new and revised fees are being introduced for specific immigration services. Now, the changes are outlined in the draft Immigration Transition Fees Regulations 2026, which the ministry says reflects Cayman's growing population and the rising demand for public services and infrastructure. Now, the consultation period runs from February 19th to March 5th, 2026, and the public is encouraged to submit feedback before the deadline. And yesterday, the Cayman Islands bid farewell to the late Member of Parliament, Austin Harris, as funeral services were held in his honor. Now, family, friends, and colleagues and members of the wider community gathered to reflect on his years of public service and his dedication to the people of Prospect and the wider Cayman Islands. Now, let's take a look across the region today because several major stories are definitely making headlines. In Jamaica, security forces continue intensified operation in several parishes as government pushes ahead with the new anti-crime measures. Officials say additional legislative changes are being drafted to strengthen the country's response to gang activity. Over in Trinidad and Tobago, the energy sector is in focus as the government signs new gas exploration agreements aimed at stabilizing long-term production, and officials say that the deals are critical to protecting the country's revenue base and future output. In Haiti, CARICOM leaders are renewing calls for transitional political agreement as the country faces worsening gang violence and deepening humanitarian challenges. Now, regional partners say that the situation remains one of the Caribbean's most urgent cries. Now, meanwhile, in Barbados, they are preparing for a major tourism push ahead of the summer season, reporting strong visitor arrivals and launching new marketing campaigns to maintain momentum in key markets. Let's turn our attention now to Mexico. That's heightened security measures and ongoing cartel-related violence are beginning to impact travel across the region. Now, airports in several Mexican cities have increased screening and police presence, leading to occasional delays for travelers connecting through major hubs like Cancun and Mexico City. Tourism officials across the Caribbean are monitoring the situation closely as disruptions in Mexico can affect flight schedules and regional travel flows. Now, there you have it. That's the headlines that are making Sabrina Speaks News this evening. Thank you for your feedback on this segment as well. They are greatly appreciated. It's good to be back with you, as I say, on this fine Monday, starting it off with the winds that came in this evening. Hi, Donnie. You're the first to actually comment this evening. It's good to have you here. Hey, how you doing? Good evening to you as well. Damian Henry is definitely in the house too. Andrew, how are you, my dear? Good to have you back. Even Miss Barbara G's in the house. Thank you for definitely coming on the show. Connie Bonnie is in the house, and the boss is viewing. Oh my God, I don't care what y'all see. She's still the founder. It's good to have you joining. Yes. Hi. Good evening, Marshall. How are you, my dear? You're commenting early. I'm going to get into this line by line, and I'm going to actually share the screen with you. Your comment says the ministry should have thought about the consultation period before. Now they're looking crazy. Beautiful weather. I agree with you, Jimbo. It is beautiful. I'm loving it. I just wish it could go on for a little longer. But apparently this is going to be out of our area by Wednesday. And guess what I see is in the forecast for next? Dust. The Saharan dust is definitely up next. So I feel sorry for everybody who actually has serious sinus issues. And because, yeah, now we have to contend with that. Whether or not this is going to be the last cold front for this winter season, who to tell? But definitely forecasters are showing that it's going to be changing. So we're going to expect warmer, more humid temperatures, drier spells. It is that time of the year, but it will be accompanied by some strong, strong Saharan dust. I see you, Connie. You got to big him up. What, are you trying to make me feel bad or what? I don't feel no way. I don't feel no way. Let's get straight into it. It's 521 345 926 8255 is the number to call. Just in case you weren't aware, what I'm going to be doing right now is going through a proposed bill and breaking it down for you, because I'm getting a lot of you did not realize that there was a further amendment to the Immigration Transition Amendment Act. And you're like, what are you talking about? I got it. I'm getting that feedback. There is a Immigration Transition Amendment and Validation Act of 2026. That is the short title for this one. And pretty much that's breaking it down. Let me do it for you here to break that down exactly what that is. I will share my screen with you. And this, my friends, is a bill for an act to amend the Immigration Transition Act 2022 revision to provide that persons born in the Cayman Islands on or before the 26th of March, 1977, are Caymanians as of right, to provide for the charging of fees for expedited services, to provide for transitional matters, to validate the charging, payment, and collection of fees without statutory authority for expedited services, and for incidental and connected purposes. Now, that's a lot. That's why I am going to be going through this section with you line by line, and I will share the link below with you as well if you want to actually follow along with this as well. So let me do this for you. Let me do this for you. Let me share the link with you guys, just in case you want to go through it yourself. I'm going to share this with you. So tell me if you get that and make sure it works. Yeah. All right. So it is not a large document, to be honest with you. It's pretty a short document, and I will be going through this. I will not be reading word for word in order to get through it. In order for us to get through, but I will be going through the 7 clauses that is going to be making this amendment. And pretty much in the short title of this bill that is right here, it tells you what is actually going to actually change. So here we have another amendment again that is out for your feedback, that did not, or probably was not addressed or thought about in the big amendment that was done and passed in the floor of Parliament. Bearing in mind, for full disclosure, what was declared with the public is that was the first of a number of amendments to be done. Okay, right? So you cannot say that we weren't warned. And what I'm seeing with this is that this is trying to clean up some of who calls themselves ghost Caymanians, as what this is actually saying. Remember, we had a slow uptake in persons applying for the ID. Maybe this is a way to try and actually clean that up a little bit. I don't know. My job here, my promise to you, is that I'm going to take you across and let you know what is being presented, okay, in this. So what we're seeing here is that the plain language and explanation, and I'm going to do this at a higher level for you, and I shared the link, so hopefully you can follow along with me as best as you can, okay? the first part of this is just pretty much saying what the law is called, and that is quite uniform on every piece of legislation, okay? In clause 1, it provides the short title at the commencement of the legislation, and it is the name that is given, and this particular one that is out for discussion, or gazetted, I should say, is the Immigration Transition Amendment Validation Act of 2026. Now, this is just a formal title used in all legal documents, and that's in clause 1. Clause 2 is pretty much when the law will take effect. And what it is saying here is that this law will not automatically start right away. Instead, Cabinet will decide the start date. We see already where the one from 2025 that was supposed and was stated to come in effect, the commencement date was March 1st, has now been postponed. It's the same thing with this one. This will not automatically have a start right away. Instead, Cabinet will decide the start date. And Cabinet also chooses to start, if they want, different parts of the law at different times as well. So even though this is presented as one amendment, not all sections have to be implemented at the same time. So in case you missed what I was saying, in any piece of legislation, Cabinet can also choose to start different parts of laws at different times. For an example, one section might begin immediately while another may actually start later. So what this section for this particular piece of legislation, it replaces under the old Section 27 of the Immigration Transition Act with this new definition of who is considered to be Caymanian, because you have some definitions in here, and let me just go to that section so I don't lose you all. Let's go to the definition. Okay. So Section 27 is on there. Some of you, if you're on a phone, you may have to screen in on it, okay? This section, as I said, 27, it gives the definition. This is the bill. This is what is being proposed. This section replaces the old Section 27 of the Immigration Transition Act, and it defines who is considered Caymanian as of right. So in everyday terms, what this section is doing is that it lays out 4 groups of people who automatically would qualify as Caymanians without needing to apply for status, okay? And I will name out those 4 groups of people. Who is Caymanian as of right? Now, under this new rules, this validation bill that you see me have up here, is that people born in the Cayman Islands on or before the 26th of March, 1977. So if you were born in the Cayman Islands on or before that date, you are automatically Caymanian. Okay? The second set of people is that people who were born after the 1st of January, 2004, anywhere, if at least one of their parents was settled in the islands and was Caymanian at the time. That's the other set of persons. So it doesn't matter if the child was born in Cayman or overseas. What matters is that at least one parent was Caymanian and legally settled in Cayman when the child was born. That's the second set of people, right? The third set of people is, and I quote, people born outside the islands after the 1st of January 2004, if at least one parent was Caymanian, otherwise than by descent. Okay? What that means. This means that the parent must have been Caymanian in their own right, not just because their own parents was Caymanian. And if that is the case, their child born outside, overseas, automatically now becomes Caymanian. And the fourth set of people that would automatically be Caymanian, if this goes through as being presented, is that anyone who gained Caymanian status under Section 21 of the old immigration law, that's back in 2015 revision, or any earlier law that gave similar rights, this still recognizes them as Caymanian as of right. So anyone who was granted status before this, nothing changes. So what this actually does, what they're trying to do here, it's clarifying who is Caymanian as of right. Now, if you remember a lot of the discussions, Danny keeps putting out that question, is it Caymanian as of right? Is it Caymanian as of right? What this amendment is trying to capture and give clarity is who is Caymanian as of right, okay? The bill, in conclusion, updates the law so that these persons are automatically Caymanian. And for those of you who may have missed it, anyone born in Cayman on or before the 26th of March, 1977 is one set. Second set, anyone born on or after the 1st of January, 2004, inside or overseas, if at least one parent was Caymanian and settled in Cayman at the time, they're automatic. Third set of people is anyone born outside of Cayman after the 1st of January 2004, if at least one parent was Caymanian, not just by descent, okay? Anyone who became Caymanian under older laws that granted similar rights. So what is being proposed here is that this section is trying to clean up confusion about who qualifies automatically. Do you think they got it? What's your takeaway? It would be interesting. Your feedback is welcome, but let's continue. You have also Section 3. Section 3 that talks about express of fees. And I'm just going through it very quickly for you because I can take your questions and your comments afterwards so that we can give you in layman's terms what this substantive bill means, because it's that important. Bearing in mind, some of you are already confused. You're like, but this was already done. No, it's not. This is another amendment. But where's the regulations from the first one that was passed in 2025? Soon come is all I have to tell you, all who are asking me that question. Soon come, okay? I don't know. I can't answer that question because that has been deafening. The silence on that has been deafening. I digressed. Let's continue. What part 3 of this, that it on the screen, it says, the Principal Act amended by inserting after Section 71A the following section. And this is as it pertains to express fees. What this section does, here we go. This is a brand new rule, my people. This is brand new to the immigration transition law. And what this section does is that it explains how expedited service, express services as we call them, that is anything that is faster processing immigration applications will work, what people must pay, and when refunds are not allowed. So what this Section 71B means, in layman's terms, is that the government can fast track processing of immigration applications, okay? That government department. And what this piece of bill, this law will be doing, that it allows regulations to be created that lets people pay extra to have their applications processed more quickly. Now, this extra charge is called the express fee as we know it as. Now, you still have to pay the normal application fee, But this express fee is on top of that regular cost. Okay. Now, some will say, am I getting value for money? Are they going to speed it up? Are they going to implement processes that is going to give me value for money? Because there's no sense of me paying these express fees and I'm just waiting a long time. It's like, really, what am I paying for? We have to, let's give them time. Okay. Section 2, that is still on the screen, is that it says no refunds for express fees if delays are caused by legal or administrative requirements. Heard what I said? This section 2, it's on your screen. And the key point here is that even if someone pays for an expedited service, they will not get a refund if the delay happens because the law requires extra checks, the regulations require additional steps, the application needs further review, meaning it could be deferred for whatever reason, if there are legal proceedings or obligations that must be completed before a decision can be made. So in other words, we don't want anybody thinking that because you have the funds at your disposal and you pay or you opt to pay for express services, that it means you're going to get approved. You understand what I'm saying? What this is actually saying, in other words, is that if the delay is due to something government is legally required to do, the express fee in that case wouldn't be refunded because you're expecting to get a decision, right? In this case, it wouldn't be refunded. So what also is being declared here is that WORC has a responsibility as well, because their responsibility in this bilateral partnership in providing a service is that they must warn people before they pay the express fee. And what that means is that the director of work now has additional responsibilities on their hand, that position holder, because the director of work must give written notice to anyone who wants expedited services, explaining two things. No refund if delays are caused by legal or administrative requirements. And people must be told that up front. And they wouldn't get their express fees back if it's delayed due to required checks and these legal steps, as I alluded to earlier. And also a part of their responsibility is that if such a delay happens, WORC must notify persons immediately. So if the application gets held up for one of those reasons that require WORC must, right? They must give reasons. They must tell the applicant in writing and explain the reasons for the delay right away. And what this does, my friends, is that this ensures true level of transparency and definitely prevents misunderstandings. Now, this is not bulletproof by any shape of the imagination because anything can be challenged. But once you can show that there's true intent and so forth, then at the end of the day, all bases are covered and you're in compliance should this law come into effect. Okay? Now, in regards to the Section 4, what this actually means is that this updates Section 72 subsection 2 of the Immigration Transition Act that deals with what powers Cabinet has, okay? And Cabinet will then have the power to make regulations, basically the rules to support the law, okay? And that's what is highlighted in this subsection 4 of 72 regulations. And I'm going to break it down for you because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'll break that down for you as well. The bill actually removes 2 old paragraphs that was in there. And this is why I'm hearing people are asking, when you put certain things out for public discussion, this is the bill that I have here, but you don't know what the substantive law was saying. So when you hear persons commenting, why don't government do an exercise where you can see a markup version so you have them side by side? Even though I'm doing this for you, I'm only showing you what is being presented. And I am verbatimly telling you in a synopsis format what the current legislation says. But when you have new sections that are being added, it would make more sense if, when these bills are presented for public consultation, if there would have been an additional link to show you side by side, or if they're doing town hall meetings, that could be a presentation as well. Okay? So you really need to follow me closely because I'm doing this at a very high level. And because of timing, I also have to pretty much tell you in layman's terms what the current law says and what is being implemented. So please, the good thing about this, you can always go back once this broadcast, this episode ends, and you can follow along with yourself to pick up snippets, okay? So what this section is saying is that the bill actually removes 2 old paragraphs and replacing them with 5. Now you're removing 2, but we're getting 5 new ones that is expected or envisaged to be clearer paragraphs. Clearer paragraphs in that they explain how expedited service and express fees should be handled, okay? And what the new paragraph means is that under FA, as you can see, it pretty much says, provide services that may be expedited in respect of the processing of application. Now that's FA is an atom. Government can offer expedited fast track services. What this section actually is putting forward for consideration is that it confirms that immigration applications can be processed faster if the government chooses to offer that option. And under F subsection B, government can set express fees for expedited services. And this says, if you can't see, FB says, prescribed express fees payable under this act by a person or category, persons for the provisions of expedited services in respect of the processing of applications. Now, what this does in layman's terms is that it allows the government to officially charge extra fees for fast tracking applications. And these fees can only apply to individual or specific groups. Now we see on the screen as well, FC. This prescribed time and the intervals at which the fees under paragraph F and FB are payable. What is being said here is that government can set when fees must be paid. Now, what this does is that it lets regulations be clear. Let the regulations specify, 1, when the fees are due, whether they must be paid up front, and 3, or at certain intervals. Okay? We see where FD provides for the refund, waiver, or even a reduction of fees under paragraph F and FB, which may include the circumstances under which the fees may be refunded, waived, or reduced. Now, what that is saying is that government can allow refunds, waivers, or reduction of these fees. And in this paragraph, it gives them that flexibility. It also allows the regulations to explain when someone might get a refund, when some fees can also be waived, and when fees can also be reduced. So it is clear here, you may have had 2, but there's a total of 5. And let's go down to E, where it says, provide for an exemption from the requirement to pay fees under paragraph F and FB, which may include the circumstances under which the exemption may be granted. Now, what that is saying in plain English is that government can exempt certain peoples from paying these fees. They have that, and it's clear in this bill as being presented. And what that does is that it allows the regulations, if it's accepted, to say who does not have to pay express fees. And what that section also do is that it also allows rules about when and why an exemption can be granted. Now, when you do the comparison, like I told you, before this amendment, under the existing 72.2, paragraph FA and FB already mention expedited services and fees. But what had happened was it was very limited and didn't lack detail. It left a lot to be desired, a lot to be challenged. And what is being proposed now is that they're somewhat closing the gates and making it more clear, hopefully, okay? And the current law does not clearly spell it out. Like, it doesn't spell out when fees must be paid, when refunds or waivers apply, when exemptions apply, and so forth, or even how these rules should be structured. So I can see what they're trying to do here, because the current law mentions expedited services, but it really does not provide a full framework for how it should operate. So these amended changes, even though they're repealing the old two sections, it is replacing them, as I went through line by line, with more complete set of rules that hopefully will add clarity, more structure, so that government and all of those persons who are using the services that falls under this law can offer expedited services. They can also charge fees, set up a payment and all that sort of stuff, and also be able to allow refunds or waivers. So in bottom line, I think what they're trying to get here is that it makes the law a little bit more transparent, also gives them flexibility, and hopefully better aligns with how expedited services actually work in practice. Okay, so let's see what is going to come of this section. Before I go into section 5 that has further transitional matters, because there's 7 sections, let's take this call. Good evening, caller. You're live on Sabrina Speaks. What's on your mind?
Hi, good evening, Auntie.
Hey,
How are you?
I am fine. How are you?
Better now that I'm here.
I got beat up for the past couple of days, but I thank you all for your understanding. What's on your mind?
No, I'm just trying to follow along, right? Because I looked at the right. So just correct my understanding, right? So okay, so if you were born in Cayman on or before the 26th of March, 1977, you're Caymanian automatically.
That's what
right?
this is proposing.
That's what this is proposing. So what it means is I don't have to apply, I don't have to qualify, I don't have to prove anything extra. I'm automatically recognized as a Caymanian by law if this bill goes through, correct?
My friend, that's where the regulations will show how it's going to be operated.
Okay, so
But what you're getting from it is exactly how it appears. So what did you show up with? With a birth certificate showing that you were born here in the Cayman Islands on or before the 26th of March, 1977, and you're good. You shouldn't have to present anything else. I don't know. That's where the regulations come into play. But go ahead.
all right, so imagine, so just follow my example then, right? Okay, you know me, I got question everything, right? So 2 people born in Cayman. You have person A who's born on the 25th of March, 1977. But then you got person B who's born on the 27th of March, 1977. Right? So under this bill, person A would automatically qualify, but person B might not.
Person B will not qualify. It's not
Will
no
not
might.
qualify. So
It's not a might. It's specific. It's hard and fast. If
Will
you
not.
if you
Okay.
were born on or before March 26th, 1977, automatic. If you were
So-
born on the 27th of March, 1977, you would not be captured.
All right. So my two questions, I guess one piggybacks off of the next one, regarding that now. Number one, why that date? What changed around that date?
I can't speak on
Because-
behalf of the government, to be honest with you. And I think that's where the public consultation and clear dialogue will come up. But this is a reflection of what is already in law. And I feel that it is when the Constitution, back in the early days, I would have to go back to my notes, and I promise you I'll bring it back. I gave a definition of what was trying to be clean up then under the old Caymanian protection law, and we were trying to grow our people yet preserving Caymanians as of right. And I feel that a lot of people were so disgruntled about this that it's constitutional, and it is trying to clean up a lot of what happened from decades ago that was not addressed. And there are a number of people I know back in, memory serves me well, 2005, maybe 2006, there was a cleanup exercise almost appearing to be like an amnesty, where it had persons born between whatever date in 1984 and bringing them up to whatever time. Don't quote me on the dates, but immigration had embedded in law where persons had a specific period of time, no questions asked, as long as you were proving that you were born here. And I think it goes back to 84. And that cleanup exercise, for some reason, was unheard of. There was no PR around it. Of course, we didn't have social media back as vibrant as it is now. And I stand to be corrected only for the purpose of this forum, not speaking on behalf of any member of this government or any government before. This is really trying to cover the ghost Caymanians.
Okay.
Because many people feel insulted that they have to apply to be here. But it goes further back than an application. It has to go back to days when we were trying to do what was in the best interest of our people, that dates back to exactly the 70s under the Caymanian protection law.
Mind you, I get that cutoff dates are normal in law, but doesn't that create a line in the sand effect?
You got to draw it somewhere, and that's what people were asking for. But now I think what is happening here is that a lot of persons who went for their national ID are realizing that they're caught in between this and they've never applied for acknowledgement. So how are you going to prove?
All right. Well, the next part that I'd like, I just want to make sure that I'm understanding this correctly too, right? Because you were talking about the fees and stuff. So the bill says basically that some immigration fees that were charged in the past didn't have clear legal authority at the time. And now, if this bill is passed, it would officially make them valid. So, if I were to imagine this, okay, so all right, let's say a government department was charging $500 for a service. I'm just throwing a figure out there, right?
Mm.
Later, somebody realized, wait, the law never really said that we could charge $500 for that. So instead of refunding everybody, the government now passes a law that says, okay, well, that $500 charge is now officially valid.
They're tidying it up.
Am I understanding it correctly?
It's almost splitting hairs. I don't think that is the case here, to be honest, because they're focusing really on how fees can actually be implemented and what gives them the legal framework and standing in order to determine or be clear with how they can do express fees, who qualifies, what sections of people. It's not that what fees were being charged were illegally imposed on anyone, because everything that is being charged in immigration, the regulations actually show it. And there weren't fees that are being charged that weren't actually outlined under the regulations, under the schedule. I think they're just clarifying in the regulations and making it more explicit, because people would challenge either the refunds and express service. What they're trying to do is a cleanup exercise, making it as abundantly clear as possible, possibly that is born on some of the challenges that they have been faced with over the past. And now this is a cleanup exercise trying to make it more transparent. But that's not to say that it won't again be challenged.
Well, could the fee structure unintentionally disadvantage lower income applicants?
I don't think that is the point here at the end of the day. You're applying for, in this particular case, that could be used against someone as well. Fees are fees, and a government, whether or not, which is why this is out for public consultation, can set whatever fees they want. They're not thinking about your financial standing at that time, which is why, if you noticed, and that is another section, the transitional fees one, they have a lot of the fees there that actually is free for status under grounds of, let me try to get this one up. This one is the draft one that's also out. I'm going to have to go back into this tomorrow. This one is the new law. It says the general fees proposed, and some of the status fees on the grounds of that have to go to the board are nil, nil, nil. See, we have it here: spouse of civil partner of Caymanian nil, surviving spouse of a civil partner for Caymanian who has not remarried or thing, that's all nil. So there's a lot. I'll go into more of this for you tomorrow.
I haven't read through the whole thing.
Yeah. I'll go through this because I wanted to, this other one is more substantive because we have a little bit more time on that one with the fees. But this one was substantive because this is really trying to capture a lot of the ghost persons. People felt like this country has turned their back on them, and persons who have applied for PR or persons who are married to Caymanians that got status by way of grant through a board has more say than somebody who was born here, be it to one or two Caymanian parents, but because they were born between these particular dates, they have to apply for it. They're like, what a slap in the face in my own country. And I think this now being automatic is really a way of saying, I'm sorry, this is how we're going to try to clean it up as best as we can. Again, I can't speak on behalf of the government. That should be covered in their public consultation or town hall meetings if they have any.
Okay, I'm listening on. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm hoping that you all are following along. Thank you. The phone lines remain open, but let's turn our attention now to Section 5, as I promised. That is, it says 83, section, amendment of Section 83A, further transitional matters, okay? This section deals with transitional matters. Basically, it's a cleanup thing. This is pretty much standard. It rules that protect people. Remember, a lot of people were saying, oh my gosh, what happens to my application? What happens if I'm about to put it in, but I'm 3 days short of May 1st or March 1st or whatever, right? What this section in this bill is doing is that it protects people who already have applied for certain immigration statutes or who already hold them. And this is a pretty big section because this amendment will explain who will not be affected. Listen, this is answering questions to all of you that were asking of who will or will not be affected by the changes made in the 2025 immigration amendment law, and specifically to Section 28(3) and 4 of that law. Now, you may say, what are you talking about? Because you're talking about 2026 now. Remember, there was one back in 2025 that was passed on the floor of Parliament that people are still waiting for the regulation. That was the one that was supposed to be implemented on March 1st. This amendment in this bill explains who will not be affected by the changes made to that law that was supposed to be commenced on the 1st of March, but has now been delayed. And in simple terms, what this section really does is that it's giving a sense of protection to people who have already applied or who are already holding certain immigration rights. So they're not disadvantaged by the new laws, by the new rules. And this section actually protects in great detail because it covers two large groups of persons. And what it does is that it covers, see how long that is? And I'm going to be going through it for you. I won't be reading line by line because, gosh, we would probably go in triple time. But section 5, and it covers two key groups of people. People who applied before the 2025 changes or that law that came in effect that's not yet commenced, right? It's not yet commenced, but people who on the day, whenever that new date of commencement will take place, who had already submitted an application or where the application for, and these are the types of applications that will not be impacted. Permanent residency after 8 years of residence. And those persons, as you know, are people who are applying for the right to live here permanently in Cayman after living here legally for 8 years or more and has a pending application, okay? It also covers residence and employment rights certificates through marriage or civil partnership. And those applications are spouses or civil partners or Caymanians or permanent residents. So all of you that are really, and I know a lot of you were panicking, these applications will not be impacted whenever that 2025 bill is commenced, okay? And we continue with that. Also, dependents of someone who are already holds an RERC. So RERC as a dependent will not be impacted. Permanent residents, persons of independent means. Now, these are people who are applying for PR based on their financial independence, okay? Also, PR dependents of persons of independent means. So that includes the spouses, civil partners, or dependents of someone with PR under the independent means category. Again, British Overseas Territory citizens. So people who are applying for naturalization, people applying to become BOTC through connection, all right, not impacted. And being added as a dependent to someone's RERC, whether it's a child, children, dependents being added to parent or guardian's RERC, those pending applications will not be impacted. Now, people who are also applying for permission to stay under immigration, like permission to reside permanently, that is 111 subsection 4 or 4B. That is leave to remain under the Customs and Border Control Act. So you realize where we're dealing with WORC, and then you're also dealing with a separate department, even though it's immigration, it's two different sections. Anyone who's waiting for that authorization to remain and reside, possibly go to school for an outcome of a pending application, they will not be impacted either. This also will not impact asylum applications for dependent children. And that is children under 18 who may be applying for asylum as dependents of someone granted leave to remain. So someone who's granted permission already to remain here. And what's an important condition is that their protection, listen to this, only applies if their application is approved. Yeah. So you're not only protected by the transition rules if your application is eventually approved. If it's denied, then you do not get the benefit of transitional protections. You don't get grandfathered in under the old rules either. And you don't get any special considerations. And you're treated as if transitional protections never applied to you. So what it means is that you're only good unless your application is approved. because the protection is conditional, what is being proposed here, and you only get it if you win. If you're not actually approved, you get nothing at all. So this is a very important detail, because these transitional protections are usually meant to shield persons from sudden rule changes, which it's doing while their applications are being processed. But what this bill is really saying, you're only protected if you are eventually successful. And that means that if the rules change while you are waiting, you might be protected, but only if your application is approved. There's a reason why I'm being repetitive. There's a reason for that. And I can understand why some of you may worry, because it does create a level of uncertainty. Oh my gosh, that's only if I get approved. What happens if I'm refused? What if the rules change, my application is denied if I lose protection because of something outside of my control? And then the other question comes up as to whether or not there's fairness and should depend on the outcome. Or should it protect everyone who applied under the old rules, regardless of approval or denial? Nothing is bulletproof, and any and everything is really. But here's the bigger issue, the principle of things. And this kind of clause is exactly why public consultation, inclusion, clear explanation, side by side. Because without clear communication, without clear consultation, feeling as though you're a part of it, people don't get to ask questions. People don't even get an opportunity to seek clarity on anything that could appear unclear or unfair wording. And people don't get to understand how this would affect their lives. And they don't get to point out any unintended consequences. Yeah. So when we're seeing amendments like this, and based on what you're saying, without the people, it sends a message of, whether it's intentional or not, but the public voice is feeling that they're not mattered. It is not mattered. Yeah, you may say, well, they held it back, didn't they? They held it back. I'm seeing some of your comments here as well. And this is why I'm getting from a number of you that we are concerned. Not because the bill is all bad. Not because anyone is saying that immigration reform isn't needed, but because respect for the people requires full transparency, clarity, and inclusion in the consultative phase. And right now, people are getting the feeling that respect is missing. That's the feedback. Now, the second group of people who already held these rights when these changes takes effect, is that the group of people who already had one of the following that I'm going to outline here, once the 2025 amendment begins, right? So you don't have to fare if anything about you will change if you are a permanent resident after being here for 8 years, if you were successful. And these are all applications that were already approved. So the first set of people is anybody who had applications under those sections that are currently pending. And then the second set of people that it will not affect is anyone who was granted permanent residency for being here on the grounds of residence, RERC through marriage or civil partnership, residence and employment rights certificate as a dependent, permanent residence for persons of independent means, permanent residence of dependents of permanent residence of independent means, BOTC through Cayman connection, British Overseas Territory Citizen through Cayman connection. If you were already listed as a dependent on someone's RERC, if you already gotten permission to remain and reside let's say, work or go to school in accordance with Section 111, subsection 4 or 4 subset 4B, and or if you are the dependent children of asylum applicants. Now, these people, these persons will keep their rights and will not be affected should, if, and when the new law of 2025 that was supposed to come into effect on the 1st of March, whenever that comes into effect, this bill is saying those two groups of people will be protected. So this is basically a grandfather's clause. They're making it clear. You would have heard Danny, you would have heard Mr. Balika, you would have heard myself saying, what happens? What happens? Is this, where's the grandfather clause? This is pretty much just making it clear that if you've already applied, the new rules wouldn't suddenly change the requirements for you. If you already hold a status, the new rules would not take it away or change your conditions under which that was granted. Let's say your children dependents are protected, especially in asylum and residency cases. And for people in the middle of the process, they won't be penalized because the law changed after they have applied, like the rules of the game have changed. These are some of the things that we pointed out just before the Christmas holidays when the big debate was on. And really what it is, it's about fairness and continuity. And I would also add in there that it's about transparency as well. So what that is actually saying, and subsection 5.5, I will go into that. Subsection 5.5 is the other section of who then would not be covered. I know I hear that one. Yeah. Now, what this section is clearly defining under this bill is that it will make explicitly clear who is not covered by these transitional protections in the previous clause as I outlined there. So in other words, what this section, it explains which persons will not be grandfathered in under the old rules. And it includes also a separate rule about refunds and express that covers under all of that, right? So subsection 5, as you see me have up here at the very bottom of the page on page 13, and then it goes into page 14. This subsection 5 4A, 1A, it says, protects people who applied for permanent residence after 8 years of residence. But subsection 5 says some people are excluded from that protection. Who's excluded? Anyone on the date that this 2025 amendment takes effect who applied for certain certificates under section 37(1)(a) and B. And these are 4 categories, and I will explain them to you. Permanent residents, persons of independent means, including high net worth individuals, retirees with substantial assets, investors, property-based residency categories. Subsection B, it actually says permanent residents under the older laws. And what this means is that if someone applied for PR category that is similar to today's section 37(1)(a), they are not protected by the transitional rule. So, meaning people applying for independent means type of residency, they're not covered by the transitional protections for 8 years, the same as for 8-year PR application. And also, section 5A, people who are not included in that protected group 4B1 are persons who, subsection 4BI protects people who are already holders or PR or 8 years. But this subsection 5A excludes certain people from that protection, like I said. And anyone on the date who already holds these certificates, and that's looking at the persons of independent means categories, they're not included. All right? You may ask, well, why? Why are they excluded when they have to pay so much? Remember, under the current law, an approval fee for persons of independent means for a 25-year certificate was $25,000. Now it's $50,000 under the new fees, and we'll go through that tomorrow. But what is being put forward in this bill is that the government here is trying to draw a clear line between permanent residency earned through living here and contributing in the Cayman Islands for 8 years. And they're trying to draw a clear line and distinction between permanent residency obtained through financial-based categories, and that is your independent means. And what this transitional protections are meant for the first group and not the second group. So if you've been here for 8 years and you go through that, you're protected. But who's not protected is the persons of wealth. Okay? What we actually see under 3 is that refunds for express and temporary work permits, this is a separate rule as well. And if someone paid an express fee to fast track a temporary work permit before the 2026 amendment takes effect, any refund that may be entitled to will be handled as though it was under the 2026 amendment and not yet come into force. So what that really means is that the new 2026 rules about express fees do not apply retroactively to a temporary work permit applications, and refunds for those fees must follow the old rules and not the new ones, okay? When you compare that to exactly what was in the old law and what is being proposed right now, what the current law of today says under the section 83A, if you're able to dig it up, is that the transitional protection exists for people who applied for or already hold certain immigration statutes. However, what this current law does not clearly, it does not clearly exclude independent means or holders from protections. And the current law also does not address how express fees or refunds should be handled for temporary work permits when the rules come into effect. It's not clear. So I think what the caller was alluding to is exactly that. That very clear. But again, I'm in no position to speak on behalf of the current government. But in short, the current law is broad and some categories are not clearly separated. And what this new law will be saying is that refund rules for express fees are not explicitly covered. Good evening, caller. You're live on Sabrina Speaks. What's on your mind?
Yeah, good evening, Sabrina. This is Roy from West Bend.
Hi, how are you?
Hi. You know, if I only have a moment, but this conversation, in my opinion, seems a little superfluous. I was born in 1961, right across the street from the West Bay Post Office. I have a Cayman passport. I grew up in New York City. 1972, I became a Cayman citizen. 1982, I got a British passport. In 1992, I had an Australian passport. It doesn't really matter. They're just documents. To me. Now, just out of curiosity, do you think Dart was born here before? No, of course not. Right?
You're correct. He was not born here.
Is he a Cayman citizen?
By grant.
I never asked a question that I already know.
I know you do. Just go ahead, get to your point. I know what you're doing. You're using it as an example, but I'd rather not. But go ahead.
Yeah, it's just an example. the example, the example is to stress a point. You see, the rules are for most of us. Whether there are people who are beyond the rules, many people, they'll have money, and it doesn't really matter. You see, I have 4 daughters. The 2 oldest ones are rich. It doesn't matter to them what goes on in the United States. The 3rd one lives in China. The 4th one will be here before the year is up. And because I'm her father, she's a Cayman citizen. End of conversation. Have a nice day.
Okay. There you go. That caller does the mic drop all the time. And it leaves you food for thought. Food for thought. Well, caller, this law would actually protect that kid. And you are the father, or you're declaring yourself to be the father, being born here. Now that's the difference. For example, if you and the mother were not married and the child is born outside of this jurisdiction, or even in the jurisdiction, if you're not married, you would be subject to a DNA testing to prove that you are the biological father of that child. It doesn't matter whether or not the child was born here or not, caller. When you're claiming Caymanian citizenship and you're dealing from the perspective where the Caymanian parent is that of a father, the due diligence and checks need to be done. And in this case, as you've alluded to, that one is in the oven now. If you're married, a DNA will not be asked for. If you're not married, a DNA will be asked for. And I don't see where that excludes that process. And this, my friend, will happen whether or not that child is born on or off the island. So I'll mic drop on that one for you. But I love when you call. Thank you so much. 936-8255 as we continue with the explanation. And now we're down to validation when it comes to section 6 that is showing here on the bottom of your screen. And that's page 14. What this actually is saying is that before this amendment, WORC had been charging express expedited fees, collecting those fees, and people were paying those fees, even though the law did not give them. See, caller, I wanted to make sure you were right. I wanted to make sure I covered it. Okay? You called a little bit too early, but I'm glad you did. Bearing in mind, under the regulations, the express fees were there, though. They were there. Okay? But what this is saying is that they're putting it in the substantive law. If it was in regulations, a policy could be made. What they're doing now is actually putting it in a substantive law, right? And again, this is why it is imperative that if you have any questions from the legal learned friends of attorneys, you have the right to go seek them. Because what this section is saying, validation, is that all of these express fees, even though the law did not yet give them the legal authority to do so, this section fixes that under the bill. And in simple terms, even though WORC did not have it, what is being provided is that those fees are officially valid. And they're treated as if WORC had legal power to charge them all along. Now, here's a Pandora box. What if someone challenges all of those fees? Would government have to do a refund? Hold on. Don't jump the gun. Section 2 here says, my dear friends, Section 2 of that says, people cannot demand refunds on this basis that the fees were charged without legal authority, because WORC cannot be accused of acting unlawfully or collecting those fees. So I'm quite sure someone could stress test it if they have the funds to play along, but at what cost? What it is actually doing here, my friends, is that it's closing the gap between past practices and the new law, because I'm quite sure it has been challenged, may not have made headlines. And what this section 3 and 4 creates legal authority for these express fees to be added. And this sections ensure that everything WORC did before those sections came into force is now retroactively legal. You may say, well, what unfairness is that? Don't shoot the messenger. Don't shoot the messenger. You have the right to ask your elected representatives why it works here and don't work for other situations. And I'm quite sure there's a plethora of examples that are out there that you may actually have those questions for. But why this is important is because without this validation embedded in this bill, and now you can understand why there's an urgency possibly to get this, as it is alleged before the next sitting of the House, is maybe because of this very same section here. Because without this validation, WORC could face legal challenges. And people might argue they deserve refunds from past decisions that could be questioned. And what this clause actually prevents is all of that from making the past fees legally sound. So some law firm now doors could be knocked down like you would not believe. You just need to have the capital. I hope you all realized Alfred was very early on in the game when we hadn't gotten there yet. I knew what he was after. And there's a section in the standing orders that gives the right to the premier. People may say, well, why aren't they doing consultation on this? But then you hear that section and you're like, holy crap. Well, why won't we just deal with that section then and just deal with the other section at a later date? I don't know. Don't ask me. I'm just presenting what this bill is saying in layman's terms, give you food for thought. I'm hoping based on this explanation in layman's terms as best as I can, that you are compiling a bunch of questions that should there be town hall meetings, or if you're given the opportunity to actually have public consultations between now and whenever it's going to go to the floor of Parliament, if the Premier doesn't support it waiving the consultation and that the Speaker accepts to put it before the House, I don't know. We have to wait and see. Because that is a reality. It could actually happen. And this clause, actually, this validation, as simple as it may be, prevents all of that making the past fees legally sound. Because under the current Immigration Transition Act, there are no legal authority for work to charge these expedited fees. And any fees collected in the past were technically not authorized by law. Now, they could have been in the regulations, which I alluded to. It could be a policy decision, but it doesn't go that it can't be without being challenged. And what a mess. There's a word that Siobhan used. What is a papa? If people actually now start saying, I want my money back because I was disenfranchised. I had to wait and the law stated this and I got that. And yeah, right now, the gate is wide open for legal challenge. Now, the act does not contain any validation clause under the current law to protect WORC or even confirm that those fees were lawful. So what this does is that this creates a legal risk. And the amendment, what it does with this amendment that is being proposed here is that it retroactively legalizes all of these past express fee charges. And in layman's terms, that is that it declares that all express fees charged and collected before Section 3 and 4 are in accordance with that, come into force, are now valid. And that also It even treats those fees that if they were always lawful, even though the authority didn't exist at the time, the amendment actually protects that or pretends that it did, right? And you may say, well, what a bunch of foolishness. How can that be legal? That's why it's out for public consultation. Maybe this is setting precedents for something else. Who's to tell? And what happens here is that people can't argue that the fees were invalid or unlawfully collected once this is actually made into law. So the overall effect is that this validation section, it cleans up the past, prevents legal challenges, and aligns past practices with the new legal framework. Yeah, that's what it actually does. And this bill also, it goes into section 7, and I'm pretty much going very good here. I didn't expect to get through all of this. But yeah, what section 7 of this bill that is out for public consultation right now is that it is subheaded orders to determine by court order, by court not affected, right? What this is saying in simple terms is that this particular clause in this amendment, even though section 6 validates all past express charges by WORC, it does not undo or override any court decisions that were already made about these fees. So you see, what you didn't know, you know now. Yes. In other words, if a court has already ruled on a case involving express fees that were charged without legal authority, that ruling still stands. And what is happening here is that the government cannot use the new law to cancel, reverse, or even ignore the court's judgment. So if you're fortunate enough, remember now, this is just a bill. This is not yet a law. And they're asking for your feedback on this. So what this really means in section 7 is that the law can validate past government actions, but it cannot erase or change what the court has already decided on. And my friends, this actually protects the independence of the courts. And what it also does, it adds another layer of fairness for anyone who's already won a case. And at the end of the day, you should really be happy because it matters that without this clause, right, the government could be seen as trying to wipe out past court rulings by retroactively legalizing these fees. So it's a cleanup exercise for that. And that is pretty much what this bill is presenting. Which part really hits you the most? I know it's a lot to digest. It's a lot to absorb because, and my apologies if I can't have two screens where you could see one section of the law, the old one and the thing and the new proposal. But really and truly, the overall effect of this particular section, it validates past fees but respects the authority of the courts, and it avoids legal conflicts and maintains fairness. So what's your take on that? This is obviously a cleanup exercise, and I will try to go through some of your concerns or questions. The phone lines are open. We have approximately half hour left. And yes, I'm seeing it here. That's why we need to read a red line document. I tried my best with putting the substantive bill as to what is being proposed to be changed. And I said that at the beginning, that people are asking for a red line document. And what that means is that if this particular bill that I have up here and I've went through with you page by page from start to finish, line by line for what it all means, if this was put out as is, and then another link to show you what the original law says, it may actually make more sense to you because it's easier digested. Or even in this document, put in brackets what this current law says and what this new proposal is saying. That's all people is asking for. And maybe that's something if it keeps being repeated more and more, maybe it may come to fruition. We don't know. But I'm hearing more and more of that feedback, because even with me preparing for today, I constantly have to do a comparison. And for me, who have worked with the law for, gosh, some 30 years, it's easy for me somewhat to digest. And at times I'm a little confused because as referred to this, as referred to that, and it is a bit confusing, but it is not as difficult for me because I'm accustomed to it. Hence, I see the importance of bringing it to you in layman's terms, trying my best to simplify it. And this is why your feedback is important. This is why your participation in the discussions is imperative, because you are being heard. You are being heard. And I will repeat what I said. This is not pointing any fingers at any legislation, at any administration. These have been things that have tried to be updated, tried to be addressed, going back to the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and here we are in 2026. And the good thing is, laws are not designed to remain static. Thank God you can do amendments, but who has the political will? And that political will is one thing, but participatory democracy, inclusion of all sectors of society, will be the winners of any substantive legislation changes that impacts every individual in any country. And you get pushback, you get resistance when people feel that they don't matter. It's been a tall mandate of this administration and even previous administrations to deal with immigration reform. Not one person can deny that. But it's almost as though with certain discussions and the feedback that I'm receiving is that people are feeling sidelined. And we can all win if more consultation, inclusive, participatory is done. Some may say at the end of the day, well, if we had to do everything and include and have to go to the public for everything, we wouldn't get anything done. Oh yeah? Don't do it anymore. Don't do it. And you will see exactly what will be your fate. That's just facts. 4 years may seem like a long time, but it really isn't. And you can see based on how we're seeing the results. And this is by any means, no means getting after anybody. I see by the comments here, and you can see them yourself. The blame game is over. We're trying to do it. We're trying to get it right. Is it perfect? No. Can we get there? Maybe not. But without inclusion, and this is going to require bipartisan participation, meaning even the opposition is going to have to take their time. They're going to have to be on the ball. They're going to have to read every bit of legislation and be able to explain it to their constituents. Yeah, everybody has that responsibility. Because this, even though at the end of the day, the government, the sitting administration does hold the numbers, meaning there's not enough people in the opposition to abstain, not support, that at the end of the day, this would not still be passed based on the numbers game. So whether or not there was something that I shared here today with you, easy, or that you are not pleased with, or you require more context from where and why where it's coming from, that's for your leaders to explain. I can't answer that for you. I'm just actually putting forward in layman's terms what is being presented. Now it's for you to contact your representative and ask those questions. Some of them may be bigger than even you may think of because it goes down into a rabbit hole. Yeah, we don't know. But you can't say you didn't know that this one now exists. And I actually shared the link there with you. There's also another one with the fees. I'm going to share this link with you all too, so that tomorrow when we go through the immigration transition fees, that you all are up to speed with that for me, so that you can take a look at it. Was that the one that I shared earlier on? Did I share the fees or did I share this law? Okay. Anyhow, if I repeated it, I'll just post it. This is the fees, and I want to go through this tomorrow evening with you. The new proposed fees as well. That was a part of my news headlines for this evening. And it is a PDF document. It's an easy read, so you can go through. And that, my friends, shows what they're being proposed. It has in that fee structure, residency certificate for commercial farmhands. Now, this is the regulations, right? The regulations for fees. This is the operational arm of how a particular part of the law will actually function. You all are asking, where's the operational arm of the substantive big law with, I think, 37 changes? I stand to be corrected. That one, how that will actually work. And this one, I think I have this on the screen for you. Yeah, here it is. This one, my friends, this shows the permanent residency fees and what the new fees will be like. The issue fee based on your income. When I did a comparison to this, those fees did not change. It's in the middle of your screen under section 22. You know that there's a filing fee, there's an issue fee that's based on your income, your annual income. And if your income is between a certain amount, then it's $500 and it goes straight up to $12,500. And then they're like $350 per dependent. I see where also proposed here, and this is, I'll go into this line by line for you tomorrow, where it talks about civil partnerships, variation, re-entry stamps, reissuing of different things. That link will actually show you, this is a new certificate for commercial farmhands. Remember, this was a new application that didn't exist. Right now, what we're seeing is the application for the grant or renewal of a certificate for commercial farmhand is $150, right? And if it is approved, under the second box, it says fees varies. And that too, my friend, will be based more than likely than the income. So we're also seeing where there is registration for the jobs portal is now $25. And for business staffing plans, reissue of immigration document, each reissue of an amended work permit or approval letter that is regarding change or passport number and name is now going to be $100 is being proposed. And it's also showing for each combined issue of duplicate work permit identification card, that's $50. An issue duplicate for a certificate of right to be Caymanian is $75. Issuance of a duplicate RERC certificate is now $100. And you have different fees here. Duplicate certificate for special caregivers is $75 that's being proposed. And then you have the miscellaneous fees. Issue of reentry stamp of $50. A copy of a document is $20. Fee for an appeal against a decision made by the officer or WORC is now $100. And if you want to if you're dissatisfied with a board's decision and you want to appeal the decision to the appeals tribunal, that is not a WORC. The fee for appeal to Immigration's Appeal Tribunal used to be $1,000. It's now $3,000 that is being that is being proposed. And in this document, it actually goes through, which does not impact, as the minister says, the actual work permit fees. So the actual work permit fees remains unchanged. So this is not a real long document. It's 14 pages, 15 pages. Yeah, it's not a long document. We can go through that tomorrow. Then you got the business visitors work permits. Application for a business visitor permit is now $500. That is being proposed. And so, yeah, we can go through this tomorrow if you don't mind. And we will definitely be breaking this down, because even dependent fees for substantial business presence, it's $3,000 per dependent per year. And if it is approved, it's $3,000 per dependent. The issue fee for residency certificate for substantial business presence now is, if it's approved, it's $12,500. And the application fee for that is $1,000. Now, you were hearing about the independent means as well. For persons of independent means, application for certificate of persons of residence, persons of independent means is $500. Yes, here we go. And the issue fee for a certificate of permanent residence for persons of independent means, I quoted a wrong fee, but here it is. It's now $200,000. Yes. The issue fee for a certificate of permanent residence for persons of independent means is now $200,000. And for each dependent, it's $3,000. And for each dependent fee per year, it's $3,000. So that is the one for independent means. The direct investment one is the $50,000. So there we go. Application for certificate of direct investment is now, the filing fee alone is $1,000. And based on the certificate of issue of the certificate for direct investment, so if it's approved, it is $50,000. Those are the fees there for that. Permanent residence, resident employment rights certificate. So for a residence employment rights certificate as a dependent of a residence and employment rights certificate holder, a RERC dependent, the filing fee for that now is $300. The issue of residence and employment rights certificate as a dependent of a residence and employment certificate holder, it varies based on the earnings. So if your income is $20,000 or less, approval fee is $500. And if it's between $20,000 and $40,000 per year, it's $1,250. And then that goes straight up to $12,500. Now, applications to vary for a variation of your residence and employment rights certificate now is actually $500. So yeah, there you go. Permanent residence for spouse of Caymanians. Application for RERC certificate for a spouse of civil partner or permanent resident holder. As I said, that's $300. So yeah, we'll go through this tomorrow if you don't mind, because time will not permit me to go through this. And I want to make sure that I'm able to present this to you. But this, my friends, is another piece of document. As you can see, there's a watermark across this that says consultation draft, which means this is not in law yet. It is not in law yet. This is what is being proposed, and they're asking for your feedback and for public consultation to weigh in on this. So we're seeing where the surviving spouse or civil partner of a Caymanian. Applicants for a residence and employment rights certificate as a surviving spouse or a civil partner of a Caymanian is $300. If it is approved, it takes the same precedence as the 8-year PR, where it's based on your income. So if you have $20,000 or less, it's $500. And if you make over $150,000 or more, it's $12,500. So there you go. The filing you know that there was a section where it says filing of an annual declaration by a person granted the right to be Caymanian. Remember now, for anybody that is granted Caymanian status under the new 2025 law, when that becomes effective, they have to file an annual declaration. Right here at the very top of the screen, page 6, that filing of that declaration will attract a $100 fee. Yes. And also right to be Caymanian at the top, it says an application to the Director of Work for the right to be Caymanian after the age of 18. So that is these applications that go to the board, those applications that used to attract a $250 filing fee. What is proposed in this now? It is $1,000. And if that application is approved by the board, that will have an approval fee of the $1,000. So that remains unchanged because it was approved. And then we're seeing where the application for acknowledgement of the right to be Caymanian by confirmation is $0. Application for the right to be Caymanian by cabinet is now attracting a filing fee of $1,000. That, my friends, did not attract a fee before, or if it was $250. And then if it is approved, if your status for the grant of the right to be Caymanian by cabinet, if it is approved, that is now being proposed to attract a fee of $10,000. Okay. We're seeing where the application for the right to be Caymanian on the grounds of descent is $0. So just not even a filing fee. The application for the right to be Caymanian on the grounds of descent, parent or grandparent being born in the islands, is $0. The grant of the right to be Caymanian on the grounds of descent is also $0. An application for the right to be Caymanian on the grounds of naturalization, that is now attracting a fee of $1,000 to submit. It's gone up from $250. And for the grant of the right to be Caymanian on the grounds of naturalization, that's if it is approved, that used to be $1,000. Now it's going to be $5,000. Application for the right to be Caymanian on the grounds of marriage to or civil partnership with a Caymanian. The filing fee has now been doubled. It is now being proposed to attract a filing fee of $500. And if your application for the grant of the right to be Caymanian on the grounds of marriage or civil partnership with a Caymanian, if it is approved, it's gone up by $1,000 to now show a fee of $2,000. Yeah. So you can see the variance there. And again, this is really up to you guys to give your feedback on it and welcome it. Now, as I said, I'll go through this with you because we're seeing that some of the fees, that some of the fees for Cayman Brac and Little Cayman versus here in Grand, they are a difference. So I will break those down for you as where the work permits are concerned. Yeah. So yeah, I will do that for you tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings me to the end of this episode of Sabrina Speaks right here on this beautiful Monday evening with a lot to unpack. Real Michelle, how are you? How are you, my love? I will send you that shortly. Yeah. So I will send you that email because it was posted on another. Yeah, I'll message you separately. Okay. But yeah, that brings us to a close of another episode of Sabrina Speaks. I hope that you found it informative, engaging, it opened your eyes, and it also will actually spark some conversations for you to have with your elected representatives. And look, if it is that profound to you, there are provisions and means and ways of you to voice your opinions, give your feedback as well to the ministry in order for it to be taken into consideration. By all means, everyone who is elected, whether or not you're in the government or you're in the opposition, will have their say on all of these bills. So you shouldn't feel that if your elected representative is not sitting on the government side, that it's a waste of time for you to go and speak to them. if something really irks you about what is being proposed, how things are being handled. They all have a responsibility to hear you out, and they have their say on the floor of Parliament. It's called parliamentary privileges to weigh in and debate on all of these bills. And if you feel that you want your voice to be heard, it is through your elected members of Parliament, your representative. And if you want to go directly to the respective minister or ministries, by all means, go right ahead. That's one thing when you're a cabinet minister. You're not just representing your electoral district. You are representing everyone once you are a member of cabinet. But I hope, again, that you were enlightened, you were informed, and you're in a much better place right now with some of the things that are being proposed. And I appreciate your feedback. I appreciate you calling in. I appreciate you commenting. My apologies for not being able to go through all of your statements, but I'm quite sure all of those who are logged in will see exactly what was being said. And yes, Ms. Brenda, Alfred Real, that's a question that needs to be asked to the last administrations going back to 1977. And up until the previous administration, we're not shunning away from that, my love. Nobody's shunning away from that. And Ms. Hill has said, being that way forever. Clearly, I guess we just need to fix it. It has been reported on before. Yeah. What Alejandro is saying. Again, our forefathers lack fundamental foresight. Talk about a keen capping legislature. Well, let's see. Somebody has to take up the mantle. Hey, Denver, how you doing? I'm being sidelined, I guess, is a good term. Trying to get my referral from HSA to Health City for my medical coverage by why? Why would you be there's no politics. I always said this. There's no politics when it comes to health. Yeah, and there are others. There shouldn't be politics, period. Oh, Lord, Denver, I really hope you get through. You've been waiting on that for a while. Have you actually tried the Seneca falls under the Premier, Minister of Finance, Mr. Ralston Anglin. Seneca falls under Minister of Finance. That's Mr. Ralston Anglin. And sometimes the Ministry of Health, along with the little nudging of the Chief Medical Officer, Ms. Kathy Ebanks-Wilkes, is also the minister, but she's not responsible for Seneca. Referrals and that sort of stuff. Maybe you need to try and reach out to both of those persons. Yeah. Anyhow, Denver, that's my direction to you. Try to reach to Minister Ralston Anglin and Minister Catherine Ebanks-Wilkes, and let's see if we can get you sorted out, my love. To all of you, thank you so much for joining me. Until tomorrow, please do have a safe evening. As always, love you all lots. I appreciate you showing up to class, as always. And tomorrow will be no different as we continue to elevate, educate, and inspire right here on Sabrina Speaks. God bless.
That's a wrap for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you for tuning in and for being part of the conversation. Remember, the dialogue doesn't stop here. Stay engaged, stay informed, and most importantly, stay empowered. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m., same time, same place, right here on CMR TV and radio, where your voice matters and your truth is heard. Until then, Cayman, take care of yourself and each other.
That's it for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks, where your voice matters, your story counts, and your truth is always welcome. Join us weekdays from 5 until 6:30 p.m. right here on CMR TV as we dive into the topics that matter most to you. Catch the show live or on demand at cmrtv.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram so you never miss a moment. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and always speak your truth.